Well, to discuss this, we're joined by Salman Anees Soz. He's a member of the opposition Indian National Congress Party and the author of The Great Disappointment, How Narendra Modi Squandered a Unique Opportunity to Transform the Indian Economy. On the other side of the aisle is Gopal Krishna Agarwal, a spokesman for the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP. And Amit Kapoor is the Honorary Chairman of India's Institute for Competitiveness. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Salman Soz, let me begin with you. So, Congress has been saying a bunch of things recently in the build-up to the elections from the leadership, from the upper echelons, that BJP has done a monumental mismanagement of the economy, reckless decisions, it's been flawed, and that the economy is a mess. But this is not really true, is it?
Oh, it is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. If you look at the broad indicators of what is going on in India, then you get a sense of how bad things are. We have unemployment rate is at a 45-year high. That's crazy. 45-year high. Inequality is rising by leaps and bounds. We have farmers in perpetual distress, especially after 2016's demonetization. Our small businesses are in deep trouble. Millions have lost jobs. Especially after the goods and services tax was launched. It's a crazy tax. I mean, the World Bank called it the second most complex indirect tax in the world. And here we are. The government has been trying to revise GDP data. You can revise the GDP data, but that actually gives you, that creates problems in the international community because you don't want to cook your books. And there's a credibility problem with India's national statistics right now. I was at the World Bank for many years, and we always used to worry about Chinese data. But I suspect now Indian data is going to be viewed with a lot of skepticism as well.
Okay, so Gopal Krishna Agarwal, we've got Salman painting the picture there, saying this Modi-led government has made a mess of the economy, and he's thrown out a few indicators there, especially the unemployment rate being the highest in 45 years. The man has a point, doesn't he?
I tell you, when we inherited in 2014, our economy was in fragile 5. All our macroeconomic parameters, including inflation, GDP growth rate, fiscal deficit, level of corruption, ease of doing business, all were in a very bad shape. And over the 5 years, when we got a mandate in 2014, it was not to manage that economy, but there was mandate was to transform the economy and give some reformative changes to the whole structure. And then over these 5 years, if you see, we have done a good level of achievement on tax collection, on ease of doing business. We have moved from 142 to 77. On financial inclusion, our government has done exemplary work. 55% of the whole bank accounts opened last year as per World Bank are opened in India. And from direct benefit transfer, Aadhaar linking, the complete delivery mechanism in the social security schemes of the government is now most of the time leakage proof and very much targeted. And if you see the macroeconomic parameters over the last 5 years, now currently our inflation is below 3%, our fiscal deficit is at 3.5%. We are the fastest growing economy in the world with 7.5%
so Gopal,
GDP
again,
and on ease of doing business.
These are interesting
and on
stats.
the corruption, a last point, on the corruption, we have done exemplary work with the recovery of money from the corporate sector and with IBC, NCLT, NPA resolutions, so and infrastructure development. Everywhere you will see a marked difference, and our economy is now the 6th largest economy in the world and poised to be 5th largest economy in near future.
Gopal, why is the unemployment rate then at its highest in 45 years?
The issue is that we always had a problem with the employment data. The quality of data was always an issue. And earlier we were taking a data collection survey after every 5 years. We tried to improve that, and that definition of job is also a problem. We understand that employment is a problem in Indian economy, and this is not that now it has come. It is over the last several years that employment is a problem in the issue and is a cause of concern. But we have tried to solve it through entrepreneurship, self-employment, Mudra loan, etc. And these surveys do not cover the whole data. and
Okay,
it
sure.
only talks about government jobs and
Okay, I want to bring in Amit.
organized sector.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a question about how you actually define the data there. Salman, I'll give you a chance to respond. But first, Amit, which of the two is closer to the truth, in your opinion, Amit?
So, this is a very important debate that we're actually talking about. Like both Mr. Soz and Gopal have actually a point. But I would like to give a certain set of insights into this whole thing. If you really look at the kind of economic situation that we were actually in, from 1991 onwards, India has actually had a fairly stupendous growth. But then, of course, there was a time frame between 2008 to 2014 when India drastically slowed down. But there were a few important things that actually were done by the government, which includes reforms like GST. Whether we like it or not, GST is one of the most important reforms because it actually formalizes the process in the economy. It is important, it is complicated without a doubt. But what needs to happen is that we need to rationalize this a little further, and it would be one of the biggest reforms that India has actually undertaken over a period of time. So there is that whole thing that actually happens here. The second thing, if you really look at it, is that the way Indian economy has actually moved. Like one, of course, is the GDP point of view. The other one is very clearly that we have to understand that there is a social progress view to the world. India has actually improved socially very significantly in the last 5 years. The biggest leaps that we have actually seen have actually happened in areas like what you call access to banking or financial inclusion. And that is one big thing that has happened. Access to information technology. That is one big thing that has actually happened. So I am looking at a fairly big positive. Yes, without a doubt. We have an employment problem, and it has actually persisted for ages. It is not something which is new. We have not had the right data for the last 7 decades. We have to actually fundamentally set right the way our data collection mechanism happens, and so on and so forth. But yes, if you really look at it, India is going to face a challenge that we are going to see, and that is going to be about job growth, employment generation, and so on and so forth. But if all in all, I think things have really improved from a social perspective. If you really look at the data from 1990 until 2017, India has improved very significantly socially across the world. But the last 5 years have been the most significant.
Okay, so Salman Soz, under the BJP, there has been social progress within which economic progress is folded in.
Well, you see, the problem with that narrative is that the government's policies have actually hurt the economy much more than helped the economy. The reason being that, the first 2 years of the government, and, our agricultural sector is pretty big because a lot of people work in that sector. Even though it's a smaller portion of the GDP, a lot of people work in that sector. They're trying to eke out a living. First 2 years, there was a monsoon failure, and that means not enough rains. That means farmers were suffering. And what did the government do at that time? They actually, in India, we have a system of supporting farm prices. They actually kept them low. Then that hurt farmers at a time when monsoons failed. Then in 2016, the Prime Minister did demonetization, which disproportionately hurt the poor. Then came a GST that's extremely complex, that hurt businesses, small businesses, and that actually did not formalize much. That actually did hurt these small businesses, and lots of people, millions of people lost jobs. So what is the big picture? If you think about the big picture, when our government was there for 10 years, about 140 million Indians were lifted out of extreme poverty, 140 million income level poverty. Then the UNDP has done another report from 2005 to 2015-16. They've done a report which talks about multidimensional poverty, which includes more than income. It talks about social indicators as well. And according to that, even more people were brought out of extreme poverty during our time. But forget our time. Let's talk about this government's time. The trouble with the Modi government is that they want to take credit even where credit is not due. For example, they can talk about, say, direct benefits transfer, or providing banking services to poor people, and that's a great thing. But they'll never mention who created the platform for that. That was our government. Because you wouldn't have that without us.
Let's ask Gopal.
One other thing. One final point. On honesty, on transparency, this government has set India back in a huge way. What they're doing is there's a system of electoral bonds, basically funding of political parties through secret bonds where donors put in the money. Nobody except the government and the State Bank of India know who's donated what money to what political party. And 95% of funds have come to the ruling BJP from that channel. It's a huge channel. So basically, the government and the ruling party have decided that they're going to join hands with a few big businesses. business houses and create an oligarchy and run India.
Okay.
This is the standard technique of oligarchs and fascists everywhere and strongmen. That's what Mr. Modi is trying to do. We will not let him do it.
Gopal.
I would like to mention here two things. How do you improve economy? That you lower taxes and increase higher compliances. If you see over the past 5 years, we have not raised a single corporate tax, and though we have reduced the corporate tax. Similarly, under GST, indirect tax has fallen from around 28% average to highest slab being 18%. Only 6 items are in the 28% slab. So indirect tax has been reduced, corporate and direct tax has been reduced, and both the collection has increased. So there is better compliance and lower taxation. Second thing is, if we look into the delivery mechanism, social security delivery, we have, without reducing a single pie on the subsidy, we have been able to save 90,000 annually on the social security scheme, and we have increased the outreach of Ujjwala scheme to 6 crore women. Where housing sector has been increased to poor for 1.5 crore people. 37 kilometer of road are being built every day. There were 65 airports when we took over.
Okay.
Now there are more than 102.
Sure, but certainly, okay.
Rural housing is going on at 131. Last point I would like to tell
briefly,
you is,
please.
Mr. Soz was talking about poverty. I will give you a figure. Poverty, BPL persons at the time of 2011 was 22%. In 2019, it has come to 17%. And we target to in 2021 to 15% of below poverty
got it,
line.
Gopal. Okay.
That is the targeted approach that we are taking.
Okay.
Everything is
hold on, Gopal. You got to give me a chance here.
For us.
Okay, you got to give me a chance here. I'll tell you why. I'm running out of time dramatically. I've got 1.5 minutes left. So I'm going to give Amit a chance and then Salman a chance. So both of you, it's in your interests and the interest of our viewers to keep this brief. Amit, go ahead.
So I think if you really look at it, there is a political narrative to it in terms of saying that Prime Minister Modi is a populist leader and so on and so forth. I think I'm not really getting into the politics of the BJP or the Congress here, but I must actually share that in my recent book, The Age of Awakening, I've also said that the populism actually started with Mrs. Gandhi. In fact, she was the most populist leader that we have actually seen. So she had taken steps which were important from a social point of view. And that's a similar thing that we have actually seen in Prime Minister Modi's regime or administration. Overall, if you really look at it, economy has actually strengthened in many ways. Of course, there is that weakening of jobs that we are actually seeing. But I think I really do not have the adequate data to make a comment on it. But then if you really look at the growth numbers, there has always been a problem that we have actually seen in India in the last 30 years, and that is about jobless growth or jobless recovery. As you would actually see, there are very few sectors which have actually created some stunning growth stories and so on and so forth. But this is where we have to actually fundamentally understand that India needs to look at states as its growth engines and really start delivering a state vision or state level visions and really move forward on this. But overall, socially, we have moved forward. Without a doubt, it has been a very significant period. Very simple things like, say, nutrition, simple things like sanitation. I think India has done exceedingly well. We can't really even complain about it. How can we even say that there was something wrong with the Swachh Bharat campaign? It is one of the finest things that we could have actually done. And there have been processes.
Amit, I need to get Salman in here. Okay. Salman, I'm going to have to interrupt you and wrap up when time's up, but go ahead.
Okay. You know, I typically talk about economic issues. So, you know, on GDP growth, because everybody talks about growth, and the government revised its GDP estimates one day before presenting the interim budget just recently. And they revised upwards the GDP growth by 1.2 percentage points. That's incredibly crazy. You know, that it makes no sense. Nobody can believe it. It's unbelievable. And they say that India grew fastest in the year of demonetization. That is when there was this huge disruption to the economy. They say that India grew by 8.2%. It is totally incredulous. It's unbelievable. They're making it's so I don't know what to say. I'm just shocked that anybody would even kind of share that data from the government of India, and it's shocking. That is why the fiscal deficit ratio is meeting its targets, because they increase the GDP. You increase the denominator. You keep the numerator steady. That's how you get your ratios, and that is why we say that they are cooking books. In fact, Governor Raghuram Rajan recently said. He said, People are saying, why is there growth and no jobs? He said, maybe the growth is not that much. Maybe that's why there are no jobs. That's what's happening in India right now.
Okay, well, we looked at the economy today. We'll be exploring the issues chunk by chunk in the build-up to the largest democratic exercise in the world. Gentlemen, I thank you very much for joining us. Salman Soz, Amit Kapoor and Gopal Krishna Agarwal.